the Canon M50, why I love it and why I'm returning it. So before we get into the video, let me just give you a rundown on what brought me to actually owning this Canon M50 Mark II. So I actually have been doing weddings recently and focusing on videography, and I'm actually finding that I really love it, and as such I am kind of gravitating towards cameras that are able to kind of fill that for me. Luckily I was shooting with Fuji X-T3s, which when I purchased them it's because I did a lot of research and found a lot of people saying that they shoot amazing video as well as photo. So even though I've been doing photo primarily for like the last 2 years, I decided to give video a go, and so far it's going really well. So I went ahead and I invested in a gimbal, fluid heads for my tripods, recorders, pretty much everything that I need to be able to do wedding videography. However, once I started doing it in the real world, I found that the autofocus on the Fujis in video mode was actually kind of leaving me a bit, well, let's just say there was a lot of issues with focus hunting and stuff like that. With Fuji, they don't have the ability to just track an object from like the full screen. So basically they give you a focus point, a focus box that you can move around the screen, and it works pretty well. Like whatever's inside the focus box is actually very snappy, it's very quick. The problem is that if you have a gimbal or you're trying to track a subject, it can be difficult if you're not just doing a standard kind of like push in or pull in where the subject is kind of staying in the middle of the frame. It can be kind of difficult to actually keep them in focus. So after doing a few weddings and working with some other videographers who are shooting on cameras like the Sony a7 III and just seeing how they just whiz around on their gimbals and don't have to worry about what's in focus because their camera's autofocus is amazing and everything, I got really jealous. But I love Fuji and I don't want to jump ship on Fuji. So it basically left me with going, do I want to try to manual focus 100% all the time, or do I want to try to change cameras and basically get better autofocus? So enter the Canon M50. The M50 has so many great things going for it. You got the flippy screen, Canon's dual pixel autofocus, you can even focus on the eye while you're in video. It takes pretty good pictures, it has a really good lens selection with an adapter, I should say. There's a lot of amazing things going for it. You can hook up a mic, you can do clean HDMI out. I mean, there are so many reasons why the M50 is a great choice. So for me, I was just looking at the M50 thinking, well, if I don't want to go ahead and swap to Sony or Canon full stop, then I'll just get the M50. It's pretty cheap. I'll go ahead and I'll just use that on my gimbal. And to be honest with you, the M50 has been amazing on my gimbal. I love it. But here is the biggest reason why I'm returning it. Client perception. So it's unfortunate in our world, but the truth is that clients oftentimes price you and your value based on the equipment you bring. So if you go in there with like a red cinema camera, they're gonna think that you're more expensive than someone with like an M50. So it's unfortunate, but the truth is that client perception is a big deal. And the truth is that the Canon M50 is something that is so small, it feels like you can almost put it in your pocket. It almost feels like a toy camera. Even though the quality that's coming out of it is actually pretty good, it's just not really what I want clients to perceive me as. Now, if you're into serious videography, there's probably like a whole big list of why the Fuji is a better camera than the M50. For example, 4K, sure, the M50 shoots 4K, but it's at a very large crop and there's no autofocus in the 4K. There's also pretty bad rolling shutter. So on the Fuji, you've got 4K, you've got 4K 60 frames a second, in 1080 you can do 1080 120 frames a second. The codec is so robust on the Fuji. You've got F-Log, you've got different film profiles, you've got 10-bit 420 and 422 if you want to go into an external recorder. The Fuji is really like borderline there with some of the lower end cinema quality cameras like the Blackmagic Pocket 4K and stuff like that. So the Fuji is for what I would say the serious videographer. maybe not as serious as someone like, you know, that's coming in there with some sort of like 1DX Mark III or some, you know, a very, very expensive camera, like an actual cinema camera, but it is still serious enough that you can get amazing quality video out of it in a relatively small package, and it still retains a good client perception. And I just think that overall it produces exactly what I want. I just wish that it had better autofocus in video. So does that mean that I think that you cannot use the M50 for actual professional work? Absolutely not. In fact, I've found a lot of people who are shooting weddings that look really good with the M50. In today's world, you can do so much with the cheapest cameras, so don't let the M50 hold you back from creating or doing weddings. The fact that it's a single card slot is not that big a deal when you're talking video, because most people are not using external recorders at weddings anyway. So overall, you could still get away with this, no problem. That being said, what am I going to be doing about my situation? Well, after reaching out to some other videographers who are a bit more experienced than me, I decided that I'm going to be sticking with Fuji. I'm going to probably be building a handheld rig here soon that I want to go over with you guys when I actually get everything in the mail. As of right now, we're actually in the middle of a hurricane here in Florida, so all the mail has been delayed. Otherwise, I probably would have had all the stuff here to make that video today. I don't know why Fuji can't get their video autofocus on point with Canon or Sony, or at least super close. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Fuji, but it's not there as far as just turn on the camera, hit record, and the camera's going to track exactly what you're, read your mind. It's just not there. So I'd love to know in the comment section below, if you guys have used the M50, what you thought of it. Did you keep it? What have you been using it for? And if you didn't keep it, what camera did you decide to get instead? But I hope you guys are staying safe, and until the next video, bye guys.